The 6th Annual Lay-Clergy Institute of the First Congregational Church, Longmont, Colorado. Dr. Howard Thurman led the Institute, speaking on the general theme, The Dilemmas of the Human Spirit. This tape is Dr. Thurman's sermon and prayer of Sunday morning, April the 1st. The sermon is entitled, The Dilemma of Religious Experience. Dr. Thurman is introduced by the Reverend Donald Hensey, Senior Pastor of First Church.
It's our great pleasure again this year, after 4 years, an interval of 4 years, to have returned with us our great friend and communicator of the faith, Dr. Thurman, who will be sharing with us this morning and tonight, and again twice tomorrow. We will be talking about that more in a few moments.
The dilemma of religious experience. I want to read two things as a background for our meditation. The first is, go thy way, all things say. Thou hast thy way to go, thou hast thy day to live, thou hast thy need of thee to make in the hearts of others. Do thy thing, and be thou sure of this: no other can do for thee that appointed thee of God. Not any light shall fall upon the road for other eyes. Thee the angel calls as he calls others, and thy life to thee is precious as the greatest life can be to him. So live thy life and go thy way. A man can always make an offering of himself to God. This is far different from offering one's special talents, as important as that may be. It is more than the offering of one's money or resources, however great or limited they may be. It is to offer one's life, to put at the disposal of God one's life, not merely one's needs, one's demands, one's frustrations, one's unresolved problems. This is to say to God, here I am. I put myself at your disposal to be where I am, all of me. To do where I am with all of me. To respond to life where I am without bargaining and without bartering. This means more than being a dutiful son or husband or wife or a satisfied worker in a monotonous job. It means putting oneself at the disposal of the hours, of the days, of the months, to feel of their quality, to sense their demands, independent of what one demands, independent of what one thinks should come back in returns or dividends. With this freedom of movement within one's own spirit, provision is made for the meaningful activity and the significant undertaking. All of this without any apparent change in one's external circumstances. What wilt thou have me do? I am ready to do everything and to do nothing. to desire nothing and to desire everything. I need not say that I am very happy to be here. There are three images that I want to place before your minds, but in order to prepare the climate, the atmosphere, the background for them, I must say that in my own thought and in my own feeling, my religious outlook is very simple. To me, God is the creator of life, not merely the creator of individual expressions of life, but God is the creator of the living substance, that out of which all particular expressions of life arise. That God is the creator not only of life and not only of the living substance, but God is the creator of existence, that God bottoms existence, so that there is no expression, no manifestation, no form of life that is far removed from this guarantor of all life and all existence. And therefore, within every expression of life, God is seeking to realize himself in you and me, in all of life. The religious experience, then, is that moment or that extended moment when that which is deepest, most real, most fontal, most basic in a man's life becomes a part of his self-consciousness. Now the three pictures. In the scripture lesson this morning, the Master presented himself to John the Baptist for baptism. And we don't know very much about this, how the word from the Jordan finally got up to the area in which Jesus was living. And what kind of response, what was triggered in his mind when he first heard about John the Baptist preaching at the Jordan. But whatever that magic may have been, or whatever the reason, whatever the picture, his response was to go. And when he went and presented himself to John for baptism, it is written in the book that when he came up out of the water, a tremendous thing happened. The heavens opened. Only he saw it. The other people around didn't see it. The heavens opened, and the Spirit of God descended upon him like a dove. And he, no one else, he heard the voice of God saying, "Thou," not the rest of the people, "thou art my son, my beloved. In thee I am well pleased." The moment when the deepest thing in him said yes to the deepest thing in life. And every man, at some time, somewhere in his journey, has that kind of encounter. It may not be as dramatic. It may be a slow, simple evolution, a slow breaking of light that illumines his path. But every man is trying either to live out the implication of his moment, or he is spending his life denying the implication of his moment. For a man's life is one thing, and the dilemma of the religious experience, the dilemma of the moment of encounter is this: because the experience is so private, so personal, so altogether intimate, as if I and I alone existed in all the universe, and only I can hear what is being said, and only I can feel what is being felt, because this is so private, so intimate, so personal. It would seem that therefore it must be exclusive. But when a man discovers that what he is experiencing in his most intimate and primary life is also a part of the experience of mankind, then his dilemma is in the fact that how can he make a universal meaning or application to a private, personal, intimate experience? And there's only one way by which he can do that, and that is to live out in the details of his days the implication of his moment of encounter. So, when Jesus had this moment, what did he do? He went away to ask himself one question. What is the bearing, what is the meaning of this experience on all the rest of my life? Hence, the struggle in the wilderness, the temptations, and so forth. That's the first picture. The second picture, there is a prophet. His name is Isaiah. His great friend, the king, had died from a loathsome disease, leprosy. And when the word came to Isaiah that the king had died, he went to the place which was the place of his encounter. He went to the temple. And as he sat there wrapped in his grief, behold, the heavens opened again. And he heard the voice of God saying, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?" And then Isaiah said, "Here am I, send me." The only way that I can hold the vision is to work the vision out in my private life, in my professional life, in my commitment to life. That's the second. The third does not come from the Bible. It is the story of the Blue Cat of Castletown. It's a children's story written for adults. This rumor, this tradition, this myth goes somewhat as follows. It is written that if a cat is fortunate enough to have a kitten that is born with all blue hairs and pink ears, it will be given to that kitten to hear the song of the river. Now, no mother cat wanted to give birth to a blue cat, because if she did, when the blue cat kitten, when he heard the song of the river, or when he would hear the song of the river, he would have to leave his mother, leave everything, and follow the music, working out the song in the story of his life. So, in this story, a kitten is born. He has all blue hairs, but 4 little black hairs in his tail. And every day, the mother kept watching, hoping that these 4 little black hairs would remain, and she would not have a blue cat with pink ears, because she wanted to keep her child close to her. And if the child heard the sound of the river, he would have to forsake all and follow. And one by one, the hairs dropped out, and she had her problem. Her kitten was sleeping peacefully, attending to his own sleeping business, when there came, floating up from the river, in a quiet rhythm, the melody of the song of the river. It came through the door and insinuated itself under the dream that the cat was having. And he got up, not knowing very much about what he was doing, because he was not quite awake, and he followed the sound until he came to the river. And there the river taught him the song, and the theme of which was, "Sing your own song," said the river, "sing well." And he followed this. And the river said, "You must find a home for yourself. And how will you know when you have come home? You will sing the song of the river. And if the person who hears it recognizes it, then you will know that you have come home." So the first, without going into detail with this fascinating story, and it's a great temptation, I assure you, he came to a pewter maker's house. And the pewter maker was busy at his bench. The kitten stretched out in the doorway and began to sing. And as soon as he did, the pewter maker froze in his track, and a faraway look came in his eyes. And then he remembered, long, long ago, he knew the song of the river. And during the time that he was singing the song of the river, when he fashioned his pewter basins or bowls, the workmanship was such a complete and utter expression of what he felt and what he wanted to announce to life, that he would put on the bottom of it his seal, because he wanted the whole world to know that this creation was a manifestation of his insight, his response to his genius, to his leading. And then he married, and there were children. He needed more money. And then the tourists started coming, and they liked this workmanship, and he began to produce it and produce it. And little by little, the song of the river began to die in him. And he was so ashamed of his product that he would not put his name on the bottom, his seal, because he did not want anyone else to know that he had betrayed that which sent him on his way long ago. The three pictures. What has happened to the thing which once upon a time stirred you, gave you a sense that at last I can be of ultimate worth, that there is something, my thing, that I can do that will be a revelation of the truth that I have felt and that I experienced. What has happened to it? Do you remember? It may have been gradual. It may have been due to the result of some moment of crisis in your life, when suddenly you were brought face to face with yourself, with what it is that you really mean. What is it at bottom that you want to do with you? How do you want to manifest your life? And then all kinds of things came into play. Disappointments, frustrations, curious kinds of ambitions, all kinds of things. And then every now and then, when you're sitting alone and quiet, or now and then you read a line in a book, or you see a picture, or you hear a phrase, and then way back somewhere in the complex story of your private journey, you remember. And then what do? Do you say it's too late? Or do you shake your head and open your eyes again and say, I thought I'd settled that 30 years ago? The heavens opened, and he saw the Spirit descend upon him like a dove. And he heard the voice of God saying, Thou art my Son, in whom I'm well pleased. He went to the wilderness to work out the implications of the vision so that his life would not be a denial of that to which at his deepest center he had said yes or no. Where do you stand this morning? Is your life a manifestation of what it is that deep within yourself you are trying to say to God concerning you? Or are sections of your life completely shut off so that you say, this is a part of my commitment. And this is something else, and the two can never be mixed. As if a man's life were many things. A man's life is one thing. And if in the living of his life he betrays that which in his most lucid moments he knows himself to be, then all of his days, however gifted, however prosperous, however wonderful he may be in the sight of others, all of his days he knows that his life is a denial of his own deepest sense of his own integrity and commitment. And now, I put it together with another picture, and I'm through. As I listened to the singing of "Were You There When They Crucified My Lord," my mind went back some 30 years ago, 35 years ago, and I was seated with Mrs. Thurman and another friend in a bungalow tent in an open field, talking with 3 or 4 East Indian leaders, and among them was Mahatma Gandhi. And after 2 or 3 hours of conversation, and we were ready to go to get our train to get back to Bombay, Mr. Gandhi asked us if we would do him a favor. And under the aegis of that kind of moment, you promise anything. So I said, oh, yes. And he said, will you sing a song for me? And I said, well, I can't sing, but I can work at it. And Mrs. Thurman sings, and the young man with us sings, but I will, oh, yes, if we know the song. And he said, it is the song that lives in my mind all the time, because it moves to the center of the moment of insight, when a man is stripped to the literal substance of himself and he stands naked before his God. And I said, well, what is the song? He said, were you there when they crucified my Lord? And so the 3 of us, under this tent, in the middle of the field, sang, while Gandhiji and his 3 companions bowed in prayer. And when we finished, each of us knew within the tight circle of his most private intimacy that he was in the presence of God, alone, to whom he was responsible for the living of his life. And there was no Hindu, there was no Christian, there was no Buddhist. Human spirits open to the fullness, to the depth, to the height, to the love of God. "35 years, death, war, pestilence, violences, agonies, heights, depths, separate me from that moment. But what I felt then is what every man feels sometime, somewhere, when he least expects it. And he either follows it or he betrays it. Which do you do? Go thy way, all things say. Thou hast thy way to go, thou hast thy life to live. No other can do for thee that appointed thee of God. So go thy way and live thy life. Thy life. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God, God, God. How great is the sum of them? When I awake, I am still with thee. For the sharing of thy spirit, or for the honoring of our flesh, and the touch of thy finger on our hearts and minds, for all the ways by which we cannot escape thy love. We give to thee the quiet thanks of grateful hearts. Of course we have betrayed thee, Father. Sometimes without knowing it, other times against our conscious will, sometimes with our own assent. our fears, our troubles, our frustrations, our despairs, our disappointments, our impotence to help those whom we love in their moments of greatest desperation and greatest need. Sometimes we do get so very weary, God. Wilt thou remember this? Wilt thou remember? Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And for us, this is enough. O God, our Father. Amen.